So we had seen the other day the different types of heat exchangers. I had also shown you how an actual heat exchanger looks like. A shell and tube heat exchanger looks like. Now, when I had explained you, or when we had seen this diagram, you can see something of like an orifice here. It's not an orifice, but it's a plate with a lot of holes in between to actually hold these tubes, which are there in the shell and tube type heat exchanger. We had already seen that how large a heat exchanger can be. So the baffles play a very important role in the shell and tube type heat exchanger. Let's see what exactly they are used for. So these are the main roles of a baffle in shell and tube type heat exchanger. First is to hold the tubes in position. Secondly, it prevents the effect of vibrations, which is increased with both fluid velocity and the length of the exchanger. This you can easily understand. If there is a larger length pipe, automatically there are more amount of vibrations when fluid is moving across it. And lastly, direct shell fluid flow along the tube fluid. If you all recollect, we had seen some points in which we had seen how the uh, we had seen that how your turbulence is more effective in increasing the rate of heat transfer. So if we are placing baffles in between the heat exchanger, automatically it will direct the fluid along all the tubes, and it will also create some amount of your the main roles of a baffle, and hence they are very important in any shell and tube type heat exchanger. Various applications of shell and tube type heat exchangers. They are innumerous. A few are listed here. Rolling machines, forming machinery, machine tools, construction equipment, chemical plants, shipping, power generation, steam superheaters, condensers, medical, semiconductor manufacturing, and so on. The applications are innumerous. Now this one is a plate heat exchanger. Now, the advantage of this heat exchanger is that it is really compact in size as compared to the shell and tube type heat exchanger or the double pipe heat exchanger. Hence, what happens is that this can be used in places where you require compact area. Secondly, it can be used, it gives you effective heat exchange, of course. And apart from that, it also gives you the leverage of utilizing it or having a mobility to it. A major disadvantage of the plate heat exchanger is that since it is accommodated in a smaller place, it cannot withstand high amount of pressure. If there is high amount of pressure, there would be leakage within the gaskets. Now, actually, how is the construction? These plates that you can see, all these plates, they are placed very close to each other, and there are gaskets in between them, rubber gaskets, which actually separate the fluid. So what happens is, if you observe here, if I take the red colored fluid, now the red colored fluid is passing through this first plate. It is not passing between the two surfaces. It is passing out from this plate and now passing between these two plates. After passing between these two plates, it is moving on. Similarly, it is going through and through this and then in the next. So it is moving across alternate plates. So you have the blue liquid and the red liquid moving alternately. Hence, heat exchange will occur. They are separated by gaskets, as I said, rubber gaskets. In this diagram, you can see that how the liquid flows across two different plates. These are actual plates of an heat exchanger. You can see that there are grooves provided. You can see these grooves. These grooves are basically, see this region, if I expand, you can see these grooves. Now these grooves are for increasing the surface area of heat exchange, thus allowing you more amount of heat exchange from the same surface. So this is a plate heat exchanger. Now, after looking at different types of heat exchangers, we are moving to the actual control or control actions of a heat exchanger. My request to you all is to draw this diagram. This is the flow sheet symbol of heat exchanger. All of you have seen this in the ISA symbols sheet. It is basically indicating what are the different types of system variables and parameters and the different types of fluid media which can be used with a heat exchanger. Various fluid media that can be used are process liquid, cooling liquid, heating liquid or condensate, process vapor, okay, then cooling vapor, heating vapors such as steam. So all these are different types of fluid media that can be used with the heat exchanger. Similarly, we'll have to know the system variables and parameters for the reason of control of the heat exchanger. Our ultimate aim is to control these various unit operations. So this one heat exchanger is one unit operation. You have inlet process fluid temperature, process fluid flow, process fluid specific heat, outlet process fluid temperature, steam flow rate, and the latent heat of the steam. I want you all to take down this diagram, please. Now, if you look at this diagram, what you can see is what are the different variables and what are the parameters in this. For example, when I consider temperature, temperature is going to be the system variable because it is going to vary. But if you look at the process fluid specific heat, it will depend on the heat of both the fluids, or in short, it will depend on the temperature of both the fluids. Then there is process fluid flow, which is represented as W, and WS, which is steam flow rate. So whenever we are considering any heat exchange, temperature and fluid flow are the two parameters on which we will design the control system. Also, we need to consider pressure inside the heat exchanger or pressure of the steam that is entering the heat exchanger. That also allows us a control parameter. So see, if you look at this diagram here just now, what do we have? What can we vary in this diagram so that we can achieve temperature control? Say I want to control T2, this temperature T2, the exit temperature of the process fluid. I want to control this. If I want to control this, which parameter can I modify so that I can get T2 at a particular set point? Anybody? Please answer. I will repeat my question. In this heat exchanger, if I want this to maintain T2 at a particular set point, the exit temperature at a particular set point, then what would I vary in this particular diagram? Not
Flow.
which variable would I vary?
Flow.
Flow. Who said flow?
Abhishek Dalvi.
Abhishek.
And
Dalvi.
service
Who
too.
Sarvesh. Okay. Who else think it can be done using varying flow? Rest all think something different? If you think something different, please let me know what different variable do you think can be varied so that we can maintain temperature T2 at a particular set point.
Ma'am, degree of freedom is the number of parameters that a function depends on.
That a control depends on.
Yeah.
See, degrees of freedom basically would mean, जैसे आप लोगों ने यहाँ पर बताया कि मुझे फ्लो वेरी करके मैं टेम्परेचर T2 मेंटेन कर सकती हूँ, वैसे ही मेरे पास कितने ऐसे पैरामीटर्स हैं जो फ्रीली अवेलेबल है जिनको मैं कंट्रोल करके मेरा T2 में कंट्रोल कर सकती हूँ. That is degrees of freedom in simple language. What all I can vary to achieve my control action? That is degrees of freedom in simple words. Why we require degrees of freedom? Because if I do not know that what all will I vary to maintain temperature T2, how will I design the controller? I should know that do I vary temperature T1, do I vary the flow, or do I vary something else, so that eventually I will achieve T2. Now here we have again two types of flow. One is the flow of the process fluid itself and the other is the flow of the steam. So I have two options to vary. I can either control W or I can control WS. So these are the two variables I have with me to vary or to maintain temperature T2 at a particular set point. This is the degrees of freedom the heat exchanger has. That means I have two options. Either I vary W or I vary WS. Depending on that, I decide the control action to be taken and the control system to be defined for the heat exchanger. In this is in short what is degrees of freedom. We'll have to know degrees of freedom for any unit operation that we study henceforth. If you have any queries with this, please put them across to Abhishek so that Abhishek may ask me. So the degrees of freedom of a process defines the maximum number of independently acting automatic controllers that can be placed on a process. And how do we calculate them? So degrees of freedom is calculated by number of variables minus number of equations. Now, this particular equation that is written is the governing equation for the heat exchanger. And then if we try to calculate that what would be the degrees of freedom for this steam heater, then we have four variables, one governing equation. So what was the formula? Number of variables minus number of variables minus number of equations. Okay. So if I have four system variables and one governing equation, then automatically my degrees of freedom is equal to 3. Right? If it is a liquid to liquid heat exchanger, you have 5 degrees of freedom. If it is a steam heated reboiler or condenser cooled by vaporizing refrigerant, then the degrees of freedom are 1. I had earlier shown you all a table in which different types of heat exchangers are named depending on the type of fluid they carry or type of work they do. So hence we also have the degrees of freedom different in different situations. Steam heater has 3, liquid to liquid has 5, and steam heated reboiler or condenser has 1. Now we will be seeing various control schemes for heat exchangers. We'll be seeing basic 3 feedback control schemes. One is feedback control, the other is bypass control, and then we have feed forward control. So for feedback control, the total heat transfer will depend on overall heat transfer coefficient, A This log mean temperature difference is nothing but the temperature gradient between the two fluids between which the heat transfer is going to take place. Also, the dead time of the heat exchanger will be volume upon flow rate, because the point at which the liquids will enter or the fluids will enter into the heat exchanger and the point at which and the time at which they will exit, there will be a delay between the two, and the delay will depend on the volume, how much the heat exchanger is taking time to pass. One pass of the fluid will be the dead time of that heat exchanger. The load is the process flow. and this load is inversely proportional to the process gain and efficiency of a heat exchanger. Now, why are we looking at these terms? Because when I'm designing any control action, you all have studied various control actions, proportional, integral, and derivative. Now, not only that, you also have to keep in mind what should be the gain of that controller, or the gain of the final control element, or the gain of the sensor that is being used. So all of this and the process gain itself, all of these gains also have to be considered when we are choosing a particular final control element and a control action. Especially for a heat exchanger. Now, if you have a look at this diagram, you have the process gain, you have the sensor gain, you have the controller gain, and you have the valve gain. If the process gain varies with load, such as in the case of heat transfer processes, the gain product of the loop can be held constant by using a valve whose gain variation with load will compensate for process gain variation. This is very clear from the responses of the gain against the load. What was the load? The load is process flow. Okay. Depending on the flow of the process fluid, if I check what is the gain of the process, you can see that is inversely proportional. Then to compensate for this inversely proportional gain, such that such that such that for the valve we require it to be directly proportional. Now in CSC, all of you have studied valve characteristics and you have studied different types of valves, the basic three types of valves. Okay. Uh, Out of that, which one has this type of characteristic? Can anybody tell me?